Today I'm going to teach you how to play one of the most iconic intros of all time. Here it is. Something that I want to add, and it's about that first chord. So the Ramones chord position is being used where you basically bar all the notes, or it feels like you're barring all the notes. But it's funny because whenever Kurt plays it, that F chord, that beginning chord in the very intro sets the tone for Smells Like Teen Spirit. There's an ambiguity to that chord, you know? He adds a perfect fourth to it. That note, he plays it somewhat subtly. It's not played very, like, I'm sure that Kurt Cobain was extremely deliberate whenever he recorded these nuances, but that's what makes the intro so good. And whenever that F chord is being played, that perfect fourth gives it a mysteriousness to it and sets the tone for the entire song. It sets a sense of uneasiness. So a lot of people get this part wrong. Whenever they play the Smells Like Teen Spirit intro, if you want to get it the way that it's done in the record and make it sound as close as possible to the record, you're going to do a rest after the first down, up, down. So there's a little bit of a rest there. That rest, that's critical to make it sound the way that the record does. And it's funny because at some point, whenever I watch some guitar lessons, I've seen people do it like this, where they're playing, first of all, to play this guitar riff, you're going to use the Ramones position, the Ramones chord, which is basically a power chord, but you're barring across. So you're gonna do that down, up, down, and a rest. And it's funny because the one time that I saw somebody play it like this, they added that G. And that sounds good, but the reason it's not played like that, the reason why it sounds good is because Kurt Cobain plays what many people call a John Lennon chord. John Lennon chord is basically playing the strings. Whenever you transition from one chord to the other, you're basically playing the open strings. So whenever you hear that, it eases the transition from the B flat to the A flat, and that's technically a G6 chord, if I'm not mistaken. So whenever you do this, you realize that you're playing a G. That's a G chord whenever you play those three open strings. So whenever you transition from the B flat there's a G chord in the middle of that. So you can understand why somebody would do this. That little motion, that half step there, you can see why somebody would do that, but in reality, Kurt's not doing that. He's just playing. He's doing that John Lennon chord in the beginning of the song. So that is a critical component. So the intro of Smells Like Teen Spirit is one of the most iconic guitar intros of all time. And it's referred to by Butch Vig as a scratchy guitar intro. And the reason why, because there's a lot of dead notes in it, or muted notes. So that's what gives it the scratchy sound. People don't realize that there's a lot of nuance to this guitar intro. The intro is played in a super sophisticated type of way. And it's funny because whenever Nirvana would play this live, it would sound sloppier than it is in the record. But most people, whenever they cover this song and they try to make it sound the way the record does, they never really do the nuance that they're supposed to. There is some nuance. There's a rest in the beginning whenever you play that intro that a lot of people ignore. And there are some extra notes played in the way that it's done that people ignore. Now, having said that, whenever you play the intro of Smells Like Teen Spirit, you do the down, up, down, and a rest. And you're raking the strings while muting them. Then the G6, and you do that raking muted strings motion again. But the second time around, you don't do the down, up, down with a rest. You just keep it going fluidly. And then you come in. So that first rest that is done in the intro is very characteristic because it's only done in the very beginning of the song. Because whenever the B flat is played, you also add that extra, that major third note to it, you know? There's, if I'm not mistaken, that's a D note being played during the B flat. And whenever you play the A flat chord, you also add a perfect fourth to it, which would be a D flat to it. So that Ramones position, even though it may seem so simple, it gives the intro of Smells Like Teen Spirit an incredible amount of ambiguity. And it all adds up to making it one of the best songs of all time. You know, that intro is so iconic. And my whole life, I've spent like trying to like understand what's happening there. And that's one of the reasons why everybody gets it wrong, because they don't consider the amount of nuance that goes into that intro. So yeah. I hope that y'all enjoyed this. I'm very passionate about Smells Like Teen Spirit, as you can see. So I wanted to teach some of the nuances that are heard in the intro. Thank you very much.